the documentation, somebody's done the conflict check, do it again. It can really, really help because we are all human, we are all fallible, and people miss things. So the more people who look at something, the better. The second two types of commentary, fixing documentation and addressing requests or submitter preferences, that's a little more complex, and we will talk about those. And we will talk about what goes into them as well. So first thing I'm going to talk about is verifying documentation. So what do you need to verify documentation? You need to know that the summary that's in OSCAR, what it says about the name, is the same as in the documentation. This name is from France, from a certain time period, it's dated to. Does that documentation actually say that? Is there a date with the element? Is the name element a dated form in that spelling? So, and here's a constructed example. The name as given is Rhys ap William, and the thing says Rhys is a masculine Welsh given name found in a simple guide to constructing 13th century Welsh names by Tangwistl. And if you click the link, you see that a commenter has said this name spelling is modern. If you look at the article, it says that the bracketed spellings are standardized, which is modern. It lists period spellings. So that's a case of the documentation could not be verified. If it is verified, all you have to say is verified documentation. For more complex names, yes, you're going to have to look at different things, but if you can say that what's in the summary and what's in the documentation match up, you can say it's verified. Does anybody have any questions before I go on? Okay. Okay. Name conflicts. Now, oh, there was a hand? Okay, hold on, let me go back.
Sorry.
Okay, who asked for?
Thomas.
Okay, go ahead.
I didn't have any question.
Oh, you've got your hand up, sorry. But there is a question now in the chat. Would it be appropriate to say the spelling is a step from period practice?
No, names are never steps from period practice. What you can say is that with the example of Rhys, that particular name spelling is a modern header form, and you don't know whether it can be found as a period form. You might want to search a little further, and we'll discuss searching further in a little bit. But if that particular documentation has something not quite right about it, you can say what it is that you found. And again, if the documentation and what's in OSCAR match up, boom, verified documentation. Okay, did I answer the question?
They said, thank you in the.
Okay, all right, thank you very much. Okay, so now let's go on to conflict checking. Okay, so there is a place in SENA, PN3 is the area that discuss conflicts and names. That's the link to the relevant area of SENA. This class is not about The rules, that's a whole other class. And if you have other questions, you can ask me about that later. So basically, if you're looking at conflict checking, this is what you're looking for. There's your link, and this is what it brings up, the name pattern search form. That's what you're looking for when you're looking to conflict check. Now, you can put in one name element, you can put in part of a name element, and bring up a whole list of what's been registered that has that name element in it. Sometimes you will have a couple of dozen, sometimes you will have hundreds. It depends on how popular that particular name element is. And this will search for names with and without accent marks and stuff like that. So it may take a little bit, but what you are looking for is the names that are very close or have only one letter or two letters different between them. Like, let's say, the name in Oscar is George Smith, Smith. And I put in, okay, I'm going to search all the Smiths that are registered. So I put Smith in, and it pops up with a whole bunch of them. So I'm going to just scroll through and look for name Smith. And I'm going to specifically look for the names that start with G. And if there's anything close to George or is actually George, then yes, that's a conflict. You might have Georgie, Georgi, instead of E. That's a close enough one that you may want to tag it as a conflict. And this is only one type of name search that you can do. There are others that I don't do. And again, this is why commentary is a group sport, because one person's conflict check is not going to be another person's conflict check. Another person may have a different way to do it and find different things, different spellings. So the more people who can write, I find no conflicts, and specifically in an I form, because you're the one who's done the check, the better it will be when that name comes up for decision and review. Because the more people who do a different type of check, the more people will have gone through the database and said, well, I didn't find anything. So, any questions about this particularly?
It was a question, but it's been answered. The question was, do they get sorted alphabetically? And the answer
Yes.
was that was the default.
Yes. So if you put in Smith, and you're going to get like all the names that have a Smith element in it, and you may have an Ann Smith and a Joe Smith and a whatnot. If it's in alphabetical order, though, you can just scroll down and look for all the G's, G Smith or Smith, something else. But you're looking for what's the closest to what's in Oscar. And you can search different spellings of different names. For instance, you might have Isabel, YSB, YSABEL or ISABEL. So you may want to do a couple of different searches, because the name sounds the same. It's just spelled a little differently.
Sorry.
That's okay. Does anybody have a question?
Yeah, Iva has a question as well.
Yeah, just I guess a formality. I don't have a lot of time on Oscar. If I'm a commenter and I am trying to cite another source that either supports or conflicts with what's being said, how, I mean, do we want like Oxford Standard Citation format, or should I just say book title and page? I've gotten
I,
some different answers on that.
okay. We're going to talk about adding documentation when we get to that third style of Oscar commentary, and I'll talk about how you would write something up. Okay.
Okay, okay, thank you.
There was a
Okay.
comment about,
And one
I
more.
also just put a comment in the,
Yeah, I see. Mistress Alice has a comment. And as much information as will allow Pelican to figure out what you're talking about. Yeah, sometimes you're gonna have where you have to write out something a little more.
and
So
that one as well. Is
okay.
there's a sort of name conflict check in Oscar, but it always seems pretty flaky. Is there an automated system that is any better than that? Now somebody, Basil has replied, under display options, there's a couple other ways to sort them. Is that the only?
Yeah, there's a couple of other ways. You can sort by all sorts of things. You can enable the glossary links. You can enable different descriptions. This is the way I do it. This is how when I'm looking at the name pattern search form, this is how I have my display options, and it does pretty good for me. And if you're a newer commenter, you don't necessarily want to do something unless you have experience with working with databases and different stuff. Yes, Ivo. I see Ivo has a raised hand.
No, I think he had the raised hand for the last question that you answered.
Oh, okay. Okay, so am I being clear? Okay. All right. So now we're going to talk about fixing documentation. So this example is from an old East Kingdom letter. And this comment is about the name Angus and says, the source provided for this indicates the data should be used with caution. However, I found the same name and spelling in Index of Names in the Irish Annals, who the author is, listed as the form for early modern Irish Gaelic, relevant language for the Highlands in the 13th and 14th century, addressing a different thing that was wanted with the name. And then she gives the URL for the source. That's about the best way that you can write up a documentation fix. If you encounter something that doesn't quite mesh up and you know there's a better source, you can say it and give it. If you need to explain something more, you may need to put in a little more text. But if you're just replacing documentation, this is about the best way that you can do it. Okay. Hold on. Okay. So, any other questions?
There's a comment, sorry, Fruitback. It's a
Yeah,
bit, I speak as a expert. Other systems would be nice, but it may be an unsolvable problem.
yeah. That's a computer programming problem. We're talking about Oscar commentary and commenters. What we want is just, how much can you provide in name commentary to help the name go forward and get the submitter what they want. Okay? So now, addressing submitter requests or authenticity. Again, this is an example that that I have permission to share. In Oscar, you will see with a name, sometimes these little lines, submitter desires a feminine name, no major changes, language, and it gives the type of language most important, meaning is most important. If you're looking at these, this is where it comes from. Oops, sorry. In the name submission form, these little ticky boxes, if you have a submitter, tick those off. What's in those boxes goes into Oscar and becomes this. And then you as a commenter, if you can address any of those requests by providing better documentation or providing more explanation from the documentation that's already there, that's great. It's not something that a new commenter can always do, but you can certainly learn by reading others' commentary and finding other avenues of documentation and research. I find reading through commentary really, really helpful because it gives me not only new avenues of research, but it shows me how to look at a name for its construction or its language and really give good commentary to help both Kingdom and at the Pelican level get a name to eventually be registered, because that's the goal. That's the ultimate goal of commentary. Give that submitter what they want in a name. So, and like I said before, again, it's a group sport. The more eyes and ears, the better. Any questions? No?
There's just some comments about why that scares some people away from commenting.
Yeah, I see name conflict is a monster. You don't have to comment on every name. You can pick and choose to comment on a couple of names in a Kingdom letter. You can pick and choose to comment on just, say, English names or Spanish names, whatever it is that you feel comfortable commenting on. You never have to comment on every single name. You never have to look at every single name. That's Pelican's purview. But the more we can verify no conflicts, look at the documentation, it does pull things down as far as prepping for those final decision meetings. And Alice McIntosh says, all comments are helpful. Yep. All commentary is helpful, even if all you do is say, I verified the documentation. Or I checked, I don't find any conflicts. If you want to learn more, read Oscar commentary across everything. Just spend some time reading through. You will see different commenters, senior commenters, pull up all sorts of interesting avenues for documentation. I've gotten some amazing stuff out of reading commentary, databases I didn't know existed, books that are out there that are on Google, so they're in ebook form and they're accessible. It really is amazing what SCA heralds do have, and if you're willing to sit there and learn, it's great. It really is. anything else that people want to talk about with regard to addressing documentation or requests? Nope, we're good. Okay.
While Lily's checking her notes, one of the reasons I hopped into the meeting is because I am your target audience for for name commentary.
Or at least for now.
Until October. But to some degree, I can speak for my successor as well. So if you have questions about, how commentary gets used. I mean, Lily's in my decision meetings because she helps with the administrative stuff that Ragged Staff does and is learning the names process. So she sees how the sausage gets made. But I'm also here to answer questions you might have about how the commentary product you give me gets used.
Okay. So thank you, Mistress Alice, for your insight. And yes, Mistress Alice is Pelican sovereign until October, and she'll be handing the office over. But ultimately, it's the Pelican Sovereign of Arms that is going to be reviewing the names, and the more commentary that we can provide, the better it will be on their end when prepping for the decision meetings and getting things ready. And like I was saying, you can specialize. You don't need to ever do everything and anything. Pick a few. Look at stuff, spend time reading commentary. The first time you actually make a comment, yeah, it's terrifying because you never know what's going to happen. But if all you do is say, I verified the documentation and I did a conflict check, I didn't find anything, great. You can do that for months and years. That's perfectly, perfectly wonderful. If you want to do more, read and learn. I've been doing this for a little over 3 years now, and I'm probably going to be learning for another 20 or 30. So I encourage people to get out there and read and learn and get into commenting. Okay. So we're going to go back to now. What other things? There are some extras that you can do. If you want to look at the pattern of the name, familiarize yourself with the SENA appendices A and C. A will give you name patterns within a language that we know, and C will give you what languages can be mixed that we know of were done. And you can look at, does this name fit a pattern? Is the language mix allowed? The second thing you can look at is under the SENA rules for offensive and obtrusive modernity. Those are the SENA relevant sections. This is something that if you're going to make a comment regarding, I would say sit and think about it before you actually make the comment. By your standards, something may be offensive or something may be modern. Other people may say no. But if you have a serious query about it, you can certainly put it in Oscar and say, I think this name may be offensive under PN4, or it's modern under PN5, and quote from SENA into Oscar what what name element is doing that.
Thomas has a question.
Go
Thomas,
ahead. Go ahead.
So how would you phrase a comment like this? I'm thinking back to a particular name on an internal letter for Onsteora a couple months ago
Okay.
that the name was, I'm not going to say the name,
That's okay.
but it was a name that was immediately to me, because I'm familiar with the Manhattan Project, pinged as a well, if you know the Manhattan Project, you're going to immediately recognize that name as someone from the
Okay.
as a particular figure in the
Okay.
Manhattan Project.
Okay, so somebody submits Robert Oppenheimer, for example.
For example, okay.
Okay. May I try to address this, Mistress Alice?
Certainly.
Okay. If you see a name that you immediately have a modern reference for, what you can do is say, I saw this name and it took me to this modern name reference, and you can, put in a link to, say, Encyclopedia Britannica for that person, or a Wikipedia entry for that person, and say, does anybody else feel this way? And other Oscar commenters may say no, others may say yes, but it will give Pelican the heads up that they need to look at this, and with their senior staff, go through it and see if it really does meet the Senna rules. Raising the flag for it, if you can do that and do it very simply and succinctly, that's fine. But really look at the submitted name and what you're trying to reference back. If it's an obscure figure, not everybody may have heard of it. If it's a figure like Mistress Alice said, Robert Oppenheimer, who is fairly well known, then you may actually want to say something. But really think about what you're going to say, and then, like I said, a simple, hey, this name puts me in mind of this modern figure, and then give some kind of link to that person's presence in the world. Okay? Does that make sense? Yes? Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Okay. And the last thing that I'm going to talk about is looking at a name that maybe there's a precedent about a part of it within an LOAR or within older precedents. You may know about it, you may have heard about it. I just came out of a class about the new precedent tagging project. That's in the future. But if you want to look through LOARs, this is the link for at least the most recent ones. And you may know that there's a precedent about a name, or you may want to do the research and dive through. It's not something that has to be done, but again, it's one of those little extras that if you think that there's something that needs to be said, you can look for it and say it. so it's a good extra. Yeah, and okay. I see Susan, St. Gabriel. Yes. St. Gabriel is still pretty much a good source. This is about commentary. As far as St. Gabriel, the articles on it, there are a few of them that say they're older, so you want to be careful. And as far as the reports go, the higher the number of the report, the more likely it is that what's in it is okay. It's not being added to anymore, but it is still out there and people still use it. So if you're confronted by a name element that uses an Oscar, not Oscar, a St. Gabriel report or a St. Gabriel article, look at the article, look at the report, look for dates, and with the articles, look for, is there text near the header that says this is outdated in some way, shape, or form. Does that help? And yep, some of the reports have been superseded. Yep. So, the documentation provided with a name is the documentation provided with a name. For commenters, it's about verifying what's in Oscar and what's in the documentation meshes up. Whether that documentation is completely good or not, if you see that it isn't, you can make a comment about it not being quite correct. And if you know of better documentation, then I'm going to go back to here. Again, this is an example from the East Kingdom internal letter from a couple of years back. This is a commenter who said that this particular name, Angus, the source provided for this indicates the data should be used with caution. However, I found the same name in spelling. So not only did she say that the documentation provided was cautionary, but she found something a little better. And she did it very succinctly and very quickly and simply. That's how a good commenter can fix documentation. Any questions about that? No? Yes, I see from Susan. No need to, being catty or snarky. That's not the role of Oscar commentary. Oscar commentary is about getting the submitter their name. In the end, the name needs to be reviewed and registered. And the more that commenters can help that along, the better. Are there going to be names that have issues? Yes. But the more commenters can look at that with a logical eye and point out where something is not quite right, the better. So, and I'm going to go, okay. And people can, when can I do commentary? Whenever you have the time. Even if all you have is a half an hour at the end of a day, once a month. You can sit down, you can pick and choose a couple of names and do some commentary. You can go through your kingdom internal letter. You can go through your kingdom external letter. If you have the privileges and you feel up to it, you can look at other kingdoms' external letters. And if you're really okay with commentary, you can ask other kingdoms for privileges to comment on their internal letters. Wherever you're comfortable, however long, it's a group sport. Join in, read the commentary that's there, do some very simple conflict checks, do some very simple documentation verifications, and build from there. That's what I've been doing. And like I said, I'm going to probably be learning stuff for the next 20 or 30 years. But I wanted to bring to you what I have learned and hope that perhaps you'll come and join us all in doing some name commentary. Do we have any other questions? Because we have plenty of time. So if anybody has any other questions or comments or wants to go over something again.
We've got a raised hand from Thomas.
From Thomas, okay.
It's more a comment than a question. You said
Okay.
about kingdom internal letters. I'm an
Uh-huh.
I'm the internal submissions herald for my kingdom. Please,
Mhm.
please, please comment on kingdom internal letters. It helps us. In fact, we're having our kingdom decision meeting tomorrow evening. The commentary we get, especially from out of kingdom folks, is very, very helpful.
Now, some kingdoms want that. Other kingdoms do not. There's at least a couple of kingdoms whose internal letters are closed to outsiders. But if your kingdom is open, sure. You know, if you can provide some extra commentary for an internal kingdom letter so that those names can go upward into the external and eventually land on Pelican's lap, that's great.
Really? I have a
For-
comment on your last comment, which is, I've been doing it 40 years and I still learn something new most every month. So,
Yep. Yep.
for anyone who wants to see how commentary gets used, come to the roadshow at well, it's midnight my time, so that's 2 p.m. Lockock time, and I can't even begin to do better than that. But that's later today, where we actually do the decision meeting process, including having people read their commentary, and you get to see the sovereigns react to and use the commentary in semi-real time.
Yep. I will echo that. Hold on. Trying to remember how to stop doing the presentation. Not stop share. Hold on.
Have you got it? Because I can otherwise.
There we go. Okay. 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 Does anybody want to look at something that I went over? Any other questions about documentation or conflicts?
Lily, can you
Or-
see the Discord chat? Because there's a question in Discord chat.
Hang on.
Sorry, the Zoom group chat.
Oh, Zoom group. Hold on.
Yeah.
Hold on. Let me pull that up again.
If
So
not,
just-
I'll read them to you.
I got it. I got it. Okay. So,
And yes, there's a hand raise as well. Thank you.
okay. So let me look at the chat. Hang on. Okay, yeah. Kingdoms outsiders. Hold on. Okay, hold on. Ah, I'm sorry, my thumbs are being. Okay. From Alistair, is there a way to check whether you have if you have an Oscar account, you can certainly reach out to your principal herald in your kingdom or your kingdom submissions herald and ask what your privileges are. They're the ones that that grant the commenting privileges at the kingdom and I believe also at the external level.
There was a question from Oliver. Can you provide
Okay.
guidance for submissions herald on re-summarizing the kingdom commentary for the XLOL? How many different should one aim to keep? And there's also a hand raised as well.
Okay. Okay, so Oliver, your question was about writing up a redocumentation. Was that it? Because I'm looking at in the chat.
Yeah, so we often get quite a lot of information at a kingdom level, and obviously you're not going to want it all. You want us to re-summarize. So a little bit of a guidance on how much of that do you actually want regurgitated back at you, and how much of it do you want sanity checked at a kingdom level?
Okay. If you're talking commentary that was made at a kingdom level and then put into the external, you definitely want to redact a whirl of text. You want to give as much of a summary as you can. If it has to do with precedents, if it has to do with construction, stuff that deals with center rules, you do want to reference that. And you can also provide a link in the Excel OI back to Kingdom Chat for those who want to reread stuff. You don't have to put the whole thing into an external. But if there has been questions about this particular name submission, you can redact it and then say, here is what was completely said. We ask for wider commentary and the eventual decision by Pelican.
Beautiful,
Does that
thank
help?
you.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a great guide. Thanks.
Okay. Okay. Does anyone else have questions or comments or would like to re-see something?
There's a question from Valeria.
Valeria, yes, hi.
Valeria. Hi, Valeria.
Hi. I'm Honorable Lady Valeria. I'm from Anciora, and I've been doing this for 20 years. I'm retired, kind of coming back out, commentary herald. This is, I can't tell you how, this is how I learned heraldry, was through commentary. And everybody needs to do it. I think it's wonderful, and I'm going to be starting to do it more often.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
it's really wonderful. And I want to figure out, what do I do if I want to comment in other groups outside of Anciora? So you mentioned it, but I didn't get
Okay. The first thing you want to do is contact your Kingdom Principal Herald and find out what permissions you have within Oscar.
Okay.
If your permissions are just at the internal kingdom level, you can ask for wider permissions, and then you can ask other kingdoms principal heralds if you want to comment on other kingdoms' internal letters. And like I said, again, some kingdoms have closed kingdom letters. The only kingdom I know of that has a completely open kingdom letter is North Shield.
Is East not completely open anymore? I thought we were at one point. It's been a while since I was Kingdom's Divisions Herald.
I think
I'm attached to Outlands now, and I don't see comment buttons on the East one.
And I have to back up Thomas. I believe that Instaura is open. It's completely open for comments outside.
With regard to East, Mistress Alice, I believe that it was decided, I don't know when, that it would probably be better to have more commenters, but we'd like to know who they are.
I was just curious.
So it's you know, it's a matter of I think also giving Kingdom commenters a little more time to practice their own skills as well.
Lily, it's halfway through, or just after halfway through your talk.
Oh, okay.
Actually a little bit over. Do you want to shut down this screen so we can go to the gallery screen so you can see people talking to you, or would you just,
Yeah, let me
let
me stop my share.
Mm-hmm.
There we go. Okay, and I can always bring up things that people want to see, whether it's searches or other things as well.
Archivist here. Hello.
Hello,
Hi,
Mr.
Lilie.
Shauna. Hi, Shauna. How are you doing?
Much better, thanks. I had a
Oh,
general
good.
question for people. How can I help commenters? Can somebody give me a better idea of how I can help, if at all?
Okay. For those who don't know, that's Mr. Shauna, the SCA archivist. She's the
Laurel
one.
archivist.
Yeah.
Laurel archivist.
Laurel archivist. She has access to all of the old forms that have been submitted.
All of them.
All of them, way back. And as far as names go, if something isn't in Oscar, if it goes back further, we may just want to see what documentation was used to pass that name.
Right.
You know, I think that that function sometimes is more called for with Armory, but with names, it may just be, you know, what documentation was used way
Right.
back when.
I see a question. Yes, they're digitized, but they're not for public viewing because of the amount of personal information that's contained in everything.
Yep. So.
But they are all digitized. Took me 6 years.
So, so if we're looking at a conflict, say, and we're looking at, well, what, you know,
mostly with the question, I can answer my own question. I'm trying to get the information out to others. A lot of the time, something that comes up and they say, well, how did such and so get registered? You go look and, oh, mundane name allowance. And you can't go from there to a new registration because, well, that's not your real name. It was somebody else's back in 1982, maybe. So tracking down where weird ass something or other got registered or why or how is how I can help. So if you look at something and you're going, email me, period. Permission to conflict with 1982 might happen, no guarantees. That was back a ways.
Okay.
I just kind of trying to get the information about how I can help people out there more. I don't just help with Armory. I can help with name stuff.
Okay.
And I'm going to mute myself now.
Now?
Okay.
Would you like me to stop recording now? Are you finished, do you think, or?
I'm finished with my presentation. So yes, you can stop the recording and we can have